All right, so let's get to a couple of movies now, right? So I will kick things off with Prisoners of the Ghostland, and then we'll end with Free Guy, right? Which we
Sure.
finally got the chance to see, right? So, Prisoners of the Ghostland, right? This is the newest film from Japanese filmmaker Sion Sono, if I got the name wrong, forgive me.
Right.
This is a director that I'm not familiar with at all, though, but the way how he's described, especially on his Wikipedia page, he's somewhat of a like a Takashi Miike kind of style filmmaker, except that he hasn't made over 100 films, right? So yeah, what I mean is though is just like his style of filmmaking is very subversive, and I mean it's Japan too, so when it comes to subversive content, they are amongst the masters when it comes to that, right? But ever so often they'll have a filmmaker, right, a provocateur, if you will, that'll just come through and just do just weird shit, to get people talking, and yeah, he is one of those individuals, right? But honestly, I'm not familiar with any of his films actually, right? So this now is the first film that I'm going into from him, right? And this is actually his first English language film, right? So that's pretty interesting as well, right? I'll bring up Takashi Miike a little bit later on with this, right? Because this show itself kind of harkens back to a film that he did, not a while back, but some years ago, right? So what it's about, right? It stars, as a, the king of cult now, the new king of cult, since Bruce Campbell pretty much kind of step away from that role now.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. Why I say he's the king of cult now because, yeah, basically every show that he stars in, whether it's good or bad, we want to see it, right? It could suck, like say Jujitsu, or it could be fantastic, like say Pig, right? But we
Yeah.
always want to see it, right? But the thing is, we always kind of based it off of his wild manic performances, right? Like his post Oscar winning performance from Leaving Las Vegas, right? So we're always gonna cite films like The Rock or Face Off or The Wicker Man, right? Or or what else? Or like that Ghost Rider or the Ghost Rider duology, right? So we're always gonna look to crazy, Nicolas Cage when it comes to that, right? But ever so often he would do subtle, Nick Cage, like what he did with Pig, right? But quite recently, we like with the film Mandy, which is a film that I thoroughly enjoyed though, which leads towards that whole cult midnight movie vibe though, which this film is harkening to as well. That's what it's like, okay, we get to see, a bit of both, right? We get to see the subtle, but we also see the manic, crazy, Nicolas Cage. And one thing, the same thing that I said with I believe I mentioned this with Pig, right? This is that guy who, I mean, say what you want about his choice of roles, right? But he really commits to these performances. But he will go all in and just deliver, boy, right? Whether he's giving out bad dialogue or whether he's just not seeing anything at all, like with this film Willy's Wonderland, which came out earlier this year, which I didn't like at all. Yeah, he would still commit, right? So in the case of this, right, this is a post-apocalyptic neo-western sort of action film, right? So it's not pure sci-fi. Well, I'll describe it. It feels very much like the first two Mad Max movies, right?
Right. Okay.
Where it's not overly reliant on like flashy visuals or special effects or whatnot, but it's the world itself, right? It's just this crazy post-apocalyptic dystopian world, and characters are crazy and kooky because it's the world, right? That's what it is, and that's exactly the world we get here, right? So but the world itself is really kind of intriguing too because it's basically like this region, like this area that well, the villain who's played by another cult film favorite, Bill Moseley, right? He plays the
Okay.
governor, right? Haha. Yeah, he's in this too, right? Not to be confused with the governor from uh The Walking Dead, right? But still,
No.
yeah.
No.
so so basically it's this town that he runs, right? But the town itself is quite interesting as well too because this is, well, right after this sort of nuclear, not nuclear holocaust, sorry, this sort of nuclear accident that took place. So around the area now, it's just desert and wasteland and stuff like that, right? But here it's just like this it looks like this traditional like Japanese town. What I mean, like if you watch like an old Japanese, it's like a Jidaigeki or samurai film, it looks like that, like the
Right.
architecture, the buildings, and all that, right? They even have like a red like district area as well too, right? But the funny thing is now you have police cars, you have police with guns, you have characters walking around like cowboys with guns and literally dressed like cowboys, right? But you also have characters dressed like samurais and who actually rock katanas, right? And stuff like that, right? So it's like a mismatch, sorry, of all these different eras, right? Together in this one town, right? And yeah, basically the governor basically rules this place with an iron fist. Though he is pretty much an asshole. They kind of set up from the jump, right? And what happens is that his adopted daughter, who is played by Sofia Boutella, I didn't even know she was in this
Okay.
movie, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
she's
like
just
it.
like, well, Eunice, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tries to escape now with well she actually works as a prostitute, right, in that red light district area, right. So she tries to flee with a couple of her friends in a car. The car crashes and she's kidnapped, right. So the governor wants to know what's going on, right. So he pulls Nicolas Cage's character, who is, well, his he doesn't really have a name, right. So some random person calls him Hero, so the show credits him as Hero, right. What happened is that he was his bank robber, and him and this other guy who was played by Nick Cassavet, sorry. Yeah, he's in this as well too. Like, what? You in this too? Yeah, or Cassavetes, whoever it is. I think it's Cassavets. If I got the surname wrong, forgive me, right?
Right.
Yeah, they pull off this robbery in that same town, right? And a lot of people got killed. And well, he got arrested, but his friend fled, right? And we see what happened to him later on, right? So he's a prisoner now, and he's just kind of let go by the governor right after his daughter is is kidnapped, right. And he is given this leather suit, basically, right, this jacket, basically, right. Well, suit and pants as well too, right. But they have like these bombs strapped specifically around his arms, his neck, and his testicles. And there's like a little device, on the sleeve area, well, on one of his arms, basically, right. um and the governor basically explains that, well, basically, your job now is to go into this place called the Ghostland, right? So this is the wasteland around the area of that town, right? And you have to go and see my daughter. And if you fail, or if you attack it in any such way, the bombs will detonate. And well, one of the bombs will detonate though, and you lose something, right? So you either lose an arm, or you lose a ball, basically, right? And you have 2 days to pull this off. So in a nutshell, yeah, that's what it is. Just, well, his character going into this area. Yeah, so it's basically this sort of post-apocalyptic town. Um, way worse than what we saw. Well, way more weirder, I should say, that than the town that we're introduced to, where the film begins, right? A lot of weird characters in it as well too. And one thing I just dug about that particular area now is that they have like a lot of Japanese based traditions, right? So there's a lot of dance involved, what I mean, just the way how characters, dance, and with this is used in terms of like expression and in terms of telling the story, right? Just a little backstory. That's all I'll say. And yeah, that's basically what it is. It's just him having to go there, and basically, well, the girl is there, Sophia's character is there. He has to save her and then come back, and then, well, of course, the governor being the bad guy and all too, he has to do his thing and stop the bad guy, right? And I'll stop here. So what I would just say right off the bat now is that this is right up my alley in terms of just midnight movies, right? I'm a fan
Nice.
of midnight movies. I'm a fan of cult films. I love weird shit. I would watch weird shit, right? When it comes to, right? But I love weird shit that tells a competent enough story and
Yeah.
holds my attention. And this one does. This one does, right? Now, it's not the best told film in this genre, because what I would say, especially with films of this nature, right? You can kind of get away with doing weird things. It's the George Miller Mad Max thing, right?
Right.
It's the future, and society has crumbled. So characters, go, do weird things and go insane just because, right? So they do that here in this film, right? So I would say, just from the film, from the story itself, it's far from original. You've seen stuff like this done numerous times, whether it's in films or TV shows or even video games. You've seen stuff like this before. Um, One show this actually reminded me of, oddly enough, was a film from Takashi Miike called Sukiyaki Western Django,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know if you ever heard of it or saw it, right? But yeah, this is basically,
I know Takashi Miike's career, but I
yeah,
don't know that particular. Can you do real movies?
yeah, he do real movies.
Real
I mean,
movies, I know.
but what's like, for example, one of my all-time favorites from him is 13 Assassins,
Right.
and well, fun fact, that was actually the first film I ever covered for my Illegally Black blog, right? This is the first review I ever did. So yeah, technically, this kind of threw this out here one time. This will make it roughly 10 years since I've actually like did that review, right? So wow, pat on the back, right? Look at that, right? But yeah,
Right.
Sukiyaki Western Django was like a Western samurai mashup, right? So, but it was centered on the character of Django, right? But what make it funny though is that, wait for this, Quentin Tarantino actually made an appearance in this.
Really?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
He did. He talked in English, right? And it's funny because this was about 5 years or so before he even made Django Unchained. So I thought that was really fun. Like, okay, one of my
Right.
favorite Japanese directors do a Django film. All right, I gotta make my Django film. Right? So it's funny that Quentin Tarantino was in that, right? But I mean, Quentin loves Japanese cinema. He loves wild Japanese films. So it was funny seeing him in this, right? But what I mean, it was the reference because it does play with the culture clashing and all that kind of stuff now, but just mainly because you have characters rocking katanas and you have
Right.
characters rocking traditional six shooters now, so you
Well,
see that
it
in
does the
this movie.
whole. It's that modern weirdness that again with Takashi Miike. Well, I only exposed it through people like Suda 51, and More Heroes franchise. That kind of weirdness, no?
Right.
That makes it old on you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's exactly that though. So I would say that it's just Cyan just kind of paying a little tribute to him though, but I couldn't help but think about it when I saw this, right? But if I do have a couple gripes with this show, well, again, I mean, not the most original story ever told, right? You
Right.
kind of
Right.
know where the story is gonna go, the beats, how things gonna play out, right? But because of the nature of the genre, right? The subgenre, post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, yeah, and because it's we incorporate in Western and Japanese elements into it as well too. It does oftentimes feel as if it's weird for the sake of being weird, right? And this is me going off of this director's work for the first time, right? So, yes, it is appropriately weird, though, but at times it feels a little forced. Like, okay, we have to be crazy, we have to be kooky, we gotta have that one guy who's dressed all weird and talking in a weird language. You know what I mean? There's elements like that, right? And for some people, that might just be a turn of it. Just be like, all right, just tell your story, Dre. Like stop being so, how to say, don't be so self-indulgent with your weirdness, right? Like I understand the world is weird, but just kind of you know what I mean? You don't have to be all self-indulgent on it. That's all I'll say, right? But I would say, in terms of just the world itself, the visuals, like this is a very, very well made film, though. Just the visuals, one point, though, it's very distinct, very unique. You know what I mean? It's just how they incorporate all these different genres and just looks, too. Cause like I say, it's Western, it's Jedi geeky, it's post-apocalyptic sci-fi, and they just blend it together in this unique way. So yeah, oftentimes you will just find yourself just lost in the visuals, just in the backgrounds and the set designs, all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a very, very, very well made film. I really appreciate the effort put into how this film looks, right? Um, Dialogue wise, not the best written as well neither, right? And I guess it's because of the. I don't know if it's because of the director involved or just the writers or whatever it is. Because what I'm seeing here is that it's American writers, like two writers involved, and well, the director being Japanese now. But it just kind of feels like, it's just bare bones dialogue. It's not really telling you much. Characters would kind of say things in this over the top way, what I mean, like that. But again, because of the story itself, you have to kind of roll with it, right? But yeah, dialogue is the strongest aspect of the show, you know. Um, and I mean the supporting cast. I mean they do their thing, right? Sophia Boutella comes through really well. She isn't given much to see, and admittedly do, but when she's given things to do and say she owns it, and you really, I really do. Because I really have to applaud her being in this film as well too. We just adding an extra layer to this film as well too. Because it could have just been a one-man show, but I was glad to see her there. She added a nice little touches as well, right?
Right.
Bill Moseley was just eating the scenery in my opinion. Though he was just so over the top. Well, not over the top though, but he is that kind of asshole-ish. Because he's playing. You've seen this archetype before. You know what I mean? The Texan guy or the cowboy
Yeah,
guy who
yeah, yeah.
dresses in all white, right? He
Bill,
always
Bill,
have
Bill
this
Mosley,
white
Bill
cowboy hat
Mosley
kind of
is
thing.
yeah, Bill Mosley is very unfortunately kind of typecast in my
Typecast,
opinion.
yeah,
A little bit,
he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. And when you see him there, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah,
You
I've
know again,
seen you play characters like this before,
you know again, yeah,
Yeah. And just saving the best for last point, Nicolas Cage, right?
yeah.
I don't know, like I would love to watch like a behind the scenes as to how he got into this too. I feel like I don't know, like I feel like personally he sought this show out, Like he
Right.
sought out this, like I don't think like Cyan came up to him and say, okay, Nicolas Cage, I want you to be in my film. And I think like he purposefully wanted to be in this film though, because this is right up his alley, Trent. He could do the scowls. He could just see what he wants. He could go over the top. No, like there's a moment where you see like you blow off my testicle. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah,
does that. You know
you're
what I
right.
mean? And yeah, even yes. So slight spoiler. Yes, he gets one of his balls blown off though, and it's funny as hell. That's all I'll say, right? But yeah, no, he commits to the performance as well, though. I don't know. It just feels like this film was like tailor made for him, Dren. You know what I mean?
Right.
And compared to stuff like say Willy's Wonderland, where he says little and does little, I find like he's given a lot to do, buddy. And you do by it to the fact that he's racing against time. He has to do this thing. He ultimately just doesn't care about what's going on, but he just kind of has to do it because of the consequences, right? And I would say, just in closing, the world building I thought was really great as well, right? They really, because they do stop to explain well why the world is the way it is, and the way how they do it was quite fascinating as well too. Really unique and strange and whatnot, but it works, right? And yeah, just to get to final thoughts and rating. This is as strange and as weird as I expected it to be, though, but it is still surprisingly accessible. Like you could still go into this, know any genre that you get into, and watch it and like it for what it is, right? Um, but this is one that will become a cult classic over the years, though. But that's not to say that this is a perfect film at all, right? It still has issues as far as the story itself being so generic, and just characters just being weird because it's a genre, so you kind of have to do it, right? So it's not perfect, right? But I did expect the show to be perfect. I wanted to be entertaining, and it did entertain me. It kept my interest, from start to end. I didn't find myself
Right.
bored at all. But imagine for some people, they might just watch this and be like, okay, this is just weird for the sake of being weird. Y'all tried way too hard, whatever, right? But I could tell, it's Sia just, or Sia, whatever it is, just adding his own kind of weird flair, what I mean, from what he's generated with his filmmaking career thus far, and added it into a pretty basic post-apocalyptic story, right? And for the most part, it works. I dug this for what it was, man. So rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 3 to a light 3.5 out of 5, man. I will recommend checking it out though. It's
Nice.
not gonna be for everyone for sure. You kind of have to go in knowing you're gonna get your weird shit. You know what I mean? And it is weird, right? But and even at times goes into weird for the sake of being weird, which may or may not be a turn off for some viewers. But I would still say if you're just looking for something different and strange and just unique and just fun ultimately. 'Cause at the end of the day, I mean, even though the given the nature of the premise itself, it's still a fun film. Like you can still kind of watch it and just have fun for how weird and crazy it is, right? But I do applaud the fact that it does not go too far with it, right? Like it just goes a little over the edge, but never too far. And never at the detriment of the story itself, right?
Right.
So I would say if you're a fan of shows like this, definitely check it out though, and it will have its audience. And I do see it having cult status over the years, especially if you're like a Nicolas Cage fan. This is one that people are gonna go into for sure, man. So I had fun with this one. I really do recommend checking it out, man.
Nice.
All right, and last things last now, Free Guy. So, Ricardo, if you don't mind, I just want you to do the synopsis for this, right? But
Sure.
just to begin, this was a film that we were supposed to get last year, but because of COVID and because of because of COVID, sorry,
And
the release date
I
and the
think the buyout was supposed to not come out. Or was it?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
because this is from 20th Century Fox, right? But
Right. Mhm.
yeah, this is kind of like one of the last films to be made before it was ultimately bought by Disney, right?
Right.
But yeah, so this was one that I saw the trailer for last year, and I dug the concept for it for sure. I mean, it starred Ryan Reynolds, and
Right.
I'll talk about Ryan Reynolds and his role in this film for sure, right? But because of the pushbacks of this now, I was like, well, I guess I'll have to wait for it to come out online. Because the funny thing now, before we get to your synopsis, Ricardo, they kept saying, "Oh, we're going to put this out in theaters. Eh? This is going to be a theatrical release." I was just like rolling my eyes, like, "Are they serious? Are they serious? Are they serious?" Like, all right, okay, if you only really want to put this out in theaters, fine, right? And well, so said so that they actually did that in August, right? But it didn't make it to our shows, unfortunately. So we just had to go off of people's, reviews, see that it was solid, it was solid, right? So
Right. Right.
I just kind of had to be by like, all right, well, when it comes out, I'll check it out. And so said, so done. Much of my surprise, we a copy of it. That's all I'll see. Actually dropped last week. I was recorded here. I reached out to you. I told you it was out. So yeah, we checked it out, man, and we'll share our thoughts on it right now. So Ricardo, take away what this
Sure.
freak guy about.
So Ryan Reynolds plays a character called Guy, who is it's later revealed something special about him, but he's effectively what is known as a NBC or non-playable character in a online video game called Free City. And this Free City game operates very similar to Fortnite, if you're familiar with Fortnite or PUBG or Grand Theft Auto 5 online or something like that, right? Very, very popular game. A lot of people play it and goof around in it. And basically, he does something that reveals an interesting mystery involving him, the world, and what's going on in the rest of the world. And he has to meet, oh God, I forget the girl name, but he ends up meeting this girl who kind of unlocks that idea and mystery for
Oh,
him. And then
the girl's name. Well, okay, her name in the game is called Molotov Girl.
Molotov, right?
Yeah,
I forget what I really forget the character except for Guy and whatever it is.
right.
And basically they reveal something about Guy that he's very special for a given reason. It brings up a lot of interesting questions and ethics and rights and these kind of things. And then it does the whole idea of what to do with an evolved world and online discourse and all of this stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna start with this. I dug it for what it was, but I wanted it to be played more serious. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
Uh,
more serious, you say? Okay.
yes, I wanted
Please let me know.
right
Sorry,
slight
please
slight slight
explain.
yeah slight elaboration. Before we continue, yeah, R.I.P. Alex Trebek. Like Alex Trebek has a moment in this, and like holy shit,
Yeah,
I forget this guy did. Yeah,
boy.
yeah,
And like I actually forgot that they had him in the trailer too.
that's true.
That same scene. So yeah, see that again. But I was like, jeez, boy, Alex, boy. R.I.P. Alex Trebek. But yeah, go on.
Right. So yeah, I dug it for what it was. I was enjoying it, and the but I really wanted it to be escalate and be more serious in the sense of when it's revealed what Guy is, that should have brought on more interest in the world. And they didn't really do that. They just kind of play it straight and just do it like a typical kind of comedy. And it was good. Like it's done in the sense of hope and the ideas of hope and what hope is and wherever it is. And how to be positive in this ostensibly very negative world. And like you get into that psychology. I really wanted them to get into that. But they didn't. They just did it straight. It's Tron Legacy meets Truman Show via Night at the Museum, right? We get that. And it's the director of Night at the Museum. I was looking at it up, I was like, oh yeah, he did Night at the Museum.
Yeah.
Speaking of that dude did The Secret World of Alex Mack. I didn't even know that. Holy shit. Wow.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah, apparently. So, yeah, I'll just check into his
Wow.
IMDb page
Okay.
now. Like I
Yeah.
would. Anyway, I just wanted it to be play more serious. Like it ought to be as dark as a Black Mirror episode, but I wanted it to play more serious given the implications of what is done in this world. They effectively create an AI in the storyline, and they don't really do anything with that. Like, to me, lawyers and rights should have come into this if this information is revealed. And they don't really do that. They just play it like for laughs. Everything is just like, well, okay. And they don't really address these things in a really fundamental level. And I really wish they did. Right. But look, it's a 20th Century Fox show, at least when that existed. And I didn't think they could do it more than what we got was fine. Right? They just play the game tropes. It's, in my opinion, I enjoyed it a little more than I did Ready Player One.
Okay, okay.
But I still thought they could have done something really interesting in this with this idea, given what the circumstances are. What they did here is like, okay, if that's true, then you need to bring in some important people in this. Like, you need to start asking interesting questions. Like, I remember, like, when World of Warcraft had something called, I forget what it was called exactly. It was the blood corruption virus or something like that. It was basically a side effect of some virus not working the way, some like curse to the game not working the way it did. But because of the way how it behaved, everybody started talking about, well, is this artificial life or not? Maybe, and it's not. But because it mimicked real world viruses so well, people started modeling these ideas, and it brought in like real researchers and real ideas because of this accident in a video game. And I really wanted something like that. Like, but they just play it straight and just tell a story. And it's fine as is. It's not like, wait, this is real bullshit. Even though my boy Taika Waititi was kind of hamming it up a little too much, he's getting really annoying. But
Yeah,
it
let's talk
was,
about him too.
yeah. But I thought it was fine as it was. But I just felt they could have done so much more with this. It didn't have to be a Black Mirror episode, but I really wanted them to do more with this idea. But that's it. That's all.
Yeah, I actually do agree with you, man. So in terms of because earlier I brought on the idea of watching it in theaters and whatnot, right?
Right.
I actually kind of came out of this like in a way, I kind of glad that I didn't watch this in theaters
Oh, no,
though.
no, yeah, I would have stayed. I was staying him for this one way or the other. Like, just be clear about
Okay,
that.
okay,
Yeah,
okay. And
right,
what I mean is, right, because with shows like this, right, especially like shows that like vibrant comedies, that shows that rely a lot on visual effects and stuff like that, right? They kind of always picture it in such a way like, okay, you need to see this on the biggest screen possible, right?
nah,
See all these colors and all these sight gags and all that kind of stuff, right? I watched them home and I was like, yeah, I see them, you know what I mean? What I mean in terms of like, if it would have been worth the time watching it in theaters, I would have I still would have come out of it like, but reason being is because as much as I appreciated and was entertained by it, I still came out of it kind of wanting more from it, man.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, like you see, like how you just mentioned, how they could have gone deeper into, Guy's identity, right? That's all we see, right?
Yeah,
I just felt like in terms of what the story was about, like we could have just dived in just a little deeper, you know what I mean? Instead of just like, oh, well, I don't say that it relies a lot on sight gags, right? But it's just like, it just kind of feels a little surface level to me, like, okay, guy does this, right? He is an NPC, right? He goes through
right,
the life like this, right? And I'm not saying stop the show to dive way deeper, right? But I just felt like the premise could have just gone just a little deeper, man. So,
right.
we could have come out of it like truly entertainment, right? But it just kind of felt like, okay, because we go in with this whimsical tone, we're not really gonna dive that deep into it, nor do we feel the need to. So we just kind of get in things, and it's up to you whether it makes sense to you or not. But you still like it because of the characters on screen, right? And this to me is where Ryan Reynolds works, right? Because to me he's the one who holds the show on his shoulders, right? I don't think this movie would have worked at all if it wasn't for him, right? I mean, Sean Levy did a great job as far as directing this
Right,
film, right?
right.
But really and truly, Ryan Reynolds holds this movie down, and to me, I thought he did a great job. Right, even though at times he does come off ridiculously naive at times, but I mean
Well,
that's
yeah,
the
that's the
character.
idea.
That's who
Yeah,
he is,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
But still, there were a few moments, but again, I understand because the character, whereas like, all right, like you it's like you can't be that dumb. It's just like, all right, this. Okay, how best to describe it? How best to describe it? I'll say it like this, right? If another actor was doing the if another actor was playing that character and had to do certain deliver certain lines of dialogue or whatnot, it would have came off. They wouldn't sound as good as if Ryan did it, right? Ryan
Right.
just has a way of delivering it. The look that he has when he does it, there's something about him,
Well,
right?
I could
So
imagine.
even when
I
he
could imagine.
does, quote
I,
unquote dumb shit,
yeah.
it still works, you know.
No, I can imagine a few other actors, playing the role, like in this role, whatever. It have a couple actors off the top of my head. I can imagine doing the role other than Ryan Reynolds. But it's like whatever. It's fine. It's decent. It's solid casting one way or the other. It's fine. Um, Lil Rel Howery was neither here nor there for me. He was kind of funny, but
Yeah,
like, whatever. It's fine.
I
Um,
agree. They could have gotten another black. They
right.
could have gotten any black actor to play that
Well,
role.
one way or the other, yeah, I didn't expect them to do anything particularly well, but um, yeah, I would argue just one way or the other is that my attitude is that it just couldn't um they just cannot do more with it. But it is what it is, as I say. But
Yeah,
my mindset about it is that I just really felt, given what is revealed about Guy, I felt they could have done so much more with that, like
yeah, I
bringing
agree. I agree.
have
Yeah,
more interesting consequences where you're talking about and where you're trying
yeah.
to see, and whatnot now.
Yeah, but I just felt the problem though is that they just dropped that reveal. Sorry, too late into the film.
Well,
Around the time when the movie is about to wrap up
I
now,
no,
and then you get to the third act. They could have brought that in somewhere in the middle now, and then the rest of the film
but
could just be kind of him understanding his role there. You know what I mean? But they just
yeah,
kind of
but,
drop it in like, oh
well,
wow, but okay, we have like what a half hour again left, so let's
yeah,
hurry the story along. You know?
no, but I still think they could have done that. Like if they had drop it like halfway or whatever, and then say, okay, if this is the case, you do this. And look, it don't have to be a courtroom drama or anything like that, given the consequences of what they're trying to say.
No, no,
But
no.
um, I um, I really really wanted them to do something with that as it is. Though. I don't know. That's how I feel about it as it is.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think just because I mean, it's not a flawless film, mind you, right? But I think for me, the one they let down that I had though is given the world of Free Guy or the Free City, whatever it is, I could be nitpicky about this, Jay, but I just felt like there could have been a little bit more action, Jay. You know what I mean? I know, I
well,
understand
yeah,
it's ultimately not about the actions, more about
right,
the character and what he learns about himself. I get that, right?
yeah,
But then when you have your main villain be Taika Waititi, right? And we don't hate Taika Waititi, right? Taika Waititi, sorry, right? We
yeah.
don't hate him, right? The stuff that he is doing and has been able to do still makes me green eyed with envy. Just what he's able to do as far as a director and writer, right? In my opinion,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But I felt like him just being this sort of one note hammy, computer designer or company owner, whatever it is that came company owner, whatever it is though. I just real played it off hammy like that. Like I don't know, like I just felt like, as a villain, as an antagonist, just like, well, I don't know. It
uh,
just kind of lowered the stakes for me.
no,
Like,
yeah.
okay,
As
like
I
I
said,
know
okay, so
eventually
this,
they're gonna work around the idiocy of him,
yeah,
right?
so this was, as I said, this was pretty much the same idea that what they did in the Tron sequel, right? Tron Legacy.
Yes, yeah.
Very similar idea, very
Hmm.
similar conceit, and I with that they were running these scientific premises. In this, it's not even mentioned. It's like two characters, three characters. I'm like, dude, where are the lawyers? Where are the, where a big bioethics professor or whatever it is to come in and address this? And I really felt they could have done this and make it work.
Yeah.
Also another thing they could
But
have done. Well, this,
but also too they kind of make it all like, well, we have, Free City 2 that's coming out and it's coming out
yeah,
in under
no, what's
48
saying, but
hours, so
the main
we don't have any
characters,
time.
no, what's
Let's
saying,
just,
no, what's saying, the main characters should have been that. The two main
oh, okay.
protagonists, they should have been like that. It's like, hey, like if we're doing this exposure thing, they just kind of mentioned, oh, we're gonna sue him for blah 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 after the fact about something that have nothing to do with Guy particularly. I'm like, nah, man. If Guy is alive as it is, you can't be doing this. Like, you gotta keep them thing along. If you're making the case, make that story. If you could prove this, you
Right.
could make that argument as it is. Another thing
Yeah.
is
Oh,
like,
by
all
the way,
right,
those two main characters, by the way, that's Walter. Millie actually is, well, her alias in the game is Molotov Girl, right? So
right,
it's
right,
Joe
right,
Carey and Jodie Comer, sorry.
right,
And they have like a little subplot involving the two potential romance, something like that. But yeah,
right.
their mission basically is to bring down, Taika's Tiger's character, basically, right?
Right, right. So, but and then the other aspect of it is what Guy was doing with the whole positive aspect of it. I felt they could have done more with that. Like,
Agreed, agreed.
you have all of these because they're doing all of this. How gaming culture is so toxic. So therefore, what you have if you have a positive person in the toxic game, changing the gaming culture. Like I get that undertone for the whole thing. They could have done a lot of that, but they didn't do it, and they still play on dumb gamer tropes, right? They had this one guy
Yeah,
who he living in his room and
yeah, mom,
his mom.
yeah,
Yeah,
mom
that
vacuuming
bullshit.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They're
and
still
then
doing that.
I would say that particular moment was a massive letdown for me though.
Yeah,
And then like his avatar in the game, like the
right. His
actor, not gonna
yeah,
say who it is, no, let's
yeah,
keep
yeah.
that secret. But the actor who plays him though, and like what they have him do was just like, oh, like it's not like
It was dumb.
offensive. It was
Yeah,
just
it was just dumb. It
dumb.
just
It
didn't
was
work.
just dumb. Yeah.
It was just dumb.
Like it was funny seeing the actor again. That's all we'll see. But
Right,
it's
right.
just dumb, right? It's just a
Yeah,
work, right? But as for the good, I would say, I mean, Ryan Reynolds is, I mean, he stands out the most in this story. You could tell he was having a blast for this. You could tell the show kind of works around him too. Like case in point is actually a character with a Deadpool poster. It's like, okay, well, of course, right? But yeah, this is post Deadpool Ryan Reynolds, right? But I'd imagine if you're a fan of him from like way back, like like he just has this charm about it, right? So even when he plays goofy characters, like case in point, if anybody remembers this romantic comedy, Just Friends from 2005, I think it was. That was my official introduction to Ryan Reynolds, honestly, right? Yeah, when he plays this lovable goofball, so he plays that very well, right?
right,
Um, I actually really like Jodie Comer, who plays Molotov Gill and the
right.
character of Millie. I thought she was great. And just the look that she has as Molotov was just kick ass. And yeah, she was in the majority of the film's action scenes, right? Which are over the top and silly, but it works, right? But I just felt we could have gotten a little bit more of that in the third act, right?
Yeah,
Speaking of the third act, it is very silly and whatnot, though. Like I was watching it though, and well, one thing before I forget, this show just references so much movies, right? Whether it's Matrix or Ready Player One, it references a lot of games as well too. But that third act in particular had a very dark city vibe to it, especially with the visuals. As always say, it has a
right.
very dark city look to it. There's a moment involving Laurel Horry's character, which didn't make any sense to me, but he kind of had to do it for dramatic purpose. But just like,
Yeah,
but
well,
no,
yeah,
bro, you could have just take one step. That's all I say, right?
yeah.
And there's a little reference, with the whole Disney buy over stuff. That's all we'll
Right.
see, which caught me
Yeah.
by surprise, and I
That
liked it.
was
I
that
really did.
was whatever. It's a pretty funny joke given they had a cameo involved. Whatever.
Yeah, but you could
Like
tell that's like if I saw it in theaters,
mm,
the whole cinema would have
right,
erupted with that
right,
moment.
right.
That's all we'll
Yeah,
say.
whatever.
Yeah, that's
Um,
for the audience.
right. But yeah,
And the and side gags, for the most part work.
right,
The world itself of Free City works as well.
right.
And well, visuals are solid as well too, right? I mean, you could tell that they're in a video game, so it works, right? And so one thing I didn't expect is that I believe they actually incorporate some real YouTubers, some real like
Right.
involving
I was, I
gaming
was,
though,
I was, I was I was about to get to that. Since they're
right?
doing the gamer culture thing, you have a bunch of like popular YouTubers and streamers and Twitch people in it, like getting cameos and making mentions. But because here's the problem. Because the show was bought out by Disney and then they had all these cameos in it, they didn't want to like be subversive or too serious. That's why I got the
Okay.
feeling from. So that's why they kind of
Oh,
pulled
okay. So
back.
that's why they don't really talk like they do. They just
Exactly.
like, oh my God, this guy is running around and he's like, doing good stuff. Oh wow, he's so popular.
Right.
It,
But
like
I
it
really
work
felt,
into like in context of the scene, it
yeah,
kind of sort of works though. But like in the real world, yeah, them
exactly.
YouTubers would have
I
been
really
like,
felt,
what? Why?
exactly. I felt they could have do so much more with it, and it just played the typical movie bullshit again because it's more in the vein of given the director and his track record. It's like whatever. That's what I expect. But I would have loved to see this in a more serious tone, somebody more serious doing it and make go with these interesting ideas and carry them to logical conclusions because it's happening now. Like do it in our modern world. The 2020s what these ideas would mean if you really have to do them and run with them. But as it is, those fine. I don't know, rating
Yeah,
and
yeah,
move on.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, rated wise, I'll give this. I'll give this a decent 3.5 out of 5, man. It's
Right.
worth checking out. You'll have fun with it. It's a good way to kill 2 hours. I would say that. You will have fun with the references, the visuals,
Right.
even the music cues as well too. Like there's a great emphasis on Mariah Carey's fantasy. And
Yeah.
it was to the point that I was wondering if we were if we would have seen Mariah Carey at all in this movie, you know what I mean? But
No. Okay.
sorry, it doesn't happen, right? But it's a nice song and everybody loves the song, so it works in terms of the movie and the message, right? And just the character of Guy is so likable and stuff like that, right? But I would admit, yes, you could have done more with his character, especially with
Yeah.
what's revealed about him. They could have delved a bit more into the world of the game itself too. And I don't know, I felt like with a game set in a world where characters can literally gun, involving violence and stuff like that, we could have gotten a little bit more action sequences. Like, this was sort of teased in the trailers, and we do get it some, in parts in the first and second act. So, but I just felt like once the reveal happens, it just stops being about surviving in this world and more about, oh, I just don't want to be deleted, right? So that's it. But yeah, other than that, and like I said before, I mean, Ryan Reynolds really holds this film together, though. I don't think it would have worked at all if he wasn't in it as well, too. And yeah, for me, this is another win for Ryan Reynolds, man. So, uh, can we get a sequel for this? I don't think so. I want to say that,
Yeah.
like,
Adult. Yeah.
it's like how we had, the sequel to Lego Movie. Then again, that sequel was kind of forgettable. So,
Well,
yeah,
it
I kind
tried to
of
do
just
its own
answered the
thing.
question there.
Yeah, well, it tried to do its own thing.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
sequel. Like, I don't hate the sequel all that much, but yeah, compared to the
I
first one, it
don't
was not.
I don't hate it either, but
Yeah.
just don't remember it all that much, right?
Right. So
But yeah,
yeah, as
you'll have fun with it though. And last thing, last, you don't have to be a gamer to understand it. You don't have to
right.
be, right? So, final thoughts on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll accept it for what it is, and when I accept it for what it is, it's not that bad. But I really wanted them to do more with this, given the the implications of what is happening. But whatever, it's fine. It's a kids movie. It's fine. I just leave it at that. Because I was expecting
Or
something.
you think it's a kids movie? Okay.
Well, kind
No,
of. I mean,
it's like PG-13. It's like
yeah.
PG-13. Yeah.
But as I said, it clearly skewing younger than it could have been. I felt it should have been a lot more mature given what was, the situation. Moving on. Uh, uh some out of 10. I've been generous, but yeah, some out of 10.
Right. Last thing last though, well, I already said that I'm glad that I didn't, spend a set of cash to watch it in theaters, because I would have walked out of it, pretty just not disappointed, but just kind of underwhelmed, now, just wanting more now. But I am curious to see, like, I don't know, years from now, if especially gamers are gonna look back to this show and be like, this is well, not so much based off of a video game, but this was a video game movie that kind of got it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if that'll be the case in the future, or if somebody will come back years from now and be like, no, this is what this show got totally wrong, and this is how it didn't understand, gaming, the world of gaming at all. But I think for the most part, it does understand it. It does
Right.
understand it. It's just
Yeah.
like you said, it could have delved a lot deeper into
I
it. You know
felt
what I mean?
I felt like it just do it more because they still cater to too much stereotype, kind of typical Hollywood stuff, especially that character involving the character with his mom. Well,
Yeah, no
yeah,
no need for that.
yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much about it.